Our final day with the magnificent book of the prophet Isaiah, and our verse of the day is from chapter 61, verse 1. And chapter 61 describes the servant's mission to Zion, to Jerusalem. Zion's just another name for Jerusalem. And this recalls some of those servant songs that I mentioned yesterday that we find from chapter 42 to chapter 53. It especially echoes the servant song that's found in chapter 50, verses 4 and 11. You might want to flip back in your Bible to chapter 50, verses 4 to 11, and look at the similarities to chapter 61, verses 1 through 4. And this is the passage when Jesus went to his home synagogue and they handed him the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. This is where Jesus unrolled the scroll to. And these are the verses that he read in their hearing. I'm going to read all 4 verses. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance or rescue of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for those who mourn in Zion, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord to display his glory. They shall build up the ancient ruins. They shall raise up the former devastations. They shall repair the ruined cities, the devastations of many generations. In these words of deliverance, you hear both what some call Jesus' programmatic sermon, the program that he was going to be about, what he was going to be doing, bringing good news to the oppressed and binding up the brokenhearted, liberty to the captives, comfort to those who are mourning, rescue for those who need it. And I love the imagery of transitioning the oil of gladness, which again, when your skin is cracked and dry, living in a desert, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit, a garland of flowers rather than ashes. You hear these images going from death to life, that's what God's Messiah brings. That's what Jesus brings for all of us. And you also hear in these verses not only the calling on Jesus' life, but the calling on us as Christians and the church to do all these same things that we see Jesus doing. And I especially think with everything going on in our nation and our world, I think about verse 4. What are we doing to build up the ancient ruins and raise up devastations? Think of that in the wake of the incredible devastation we've seen with the tornadoes that hit the 6 different parts of the central United States, and especially Kentucky. But we are to be the ones who are the repairers of ruined cities and to help rebuild wherever and whenever we can. I hope you've been blessed by the book of Isaiah. It's one of the 3 pillars of the Hebrew Bible on which the New Testament rests, along with the book of Psalms and Deuteronomy. I look forward to seeing you next week when we turn to the prophet Jeremiah.